Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to import a QR code for 3D printing. So if you don't know where to get QR codes from, or there's plenty of places online, free places, I'm not going to really point to any specific one, but generally you go there, you make a QR code, you link it to whatever website that you want to link it to, or email, or whatever it is. Once you get that QR code, most of the time whenever you download that QR code, it's going to be either PNG or SVG. In this case, I would suggest just using the PNG. Now, you can get them both and you can experiment with both, but I found much more success with using the PNG within Blender. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be importing as a plane instead of using the SVG that is usually given. So I'm in Blender, and the first thing we want to do is we want to go to File, and we're going to import. We're going to drop down to Images as Planes, and then we're going to find our QR code. So I know where mine is. So we're going to navigate to the QR code that we need. Okay, so now it's actually already in here. So what you see, because I'm in solidify layout view, if we cut over here, you'll see there's my image. So, but it's just a flat plane. So how do we make it three-dimensional? Well, this is how I do it. And all I do is just come over here, and we're going to add a modifier. We're going to displace, we're going to deform and displace. So now we have that. Notice it's displaced from the object origin. Alright, so over here on this tab, what you want to do is you want to click New, because we're going to add a texture. We're going to use that texture image, or we're going to use the image to put a texture onto this plane. But there's one thing that we need to do before we do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and these two, this toggles the view in the, if you don't already know, this toggles the view in the viewport for this modifier, so I can turn that modifier off, or at least not see it. Because what I'm going to do is we're going to come here, we're going to select our object, and we're going to hit Tab to go into edit mode. Now mine's highlighted yellow. Most of the time that's kind of how things go in Blender, so you know that you got it selected. But if you don't, if you hit A, it will select everything. Now if you have another object and you're in your object mode, it's going to select all objects. So we just want this, and what we're going to do is we're going to subdivide this by right clicking subdivide, and we're going to do it many times. And the amount depends on the power of your PC and how detailed the image is. So we zoom in here, you can see I've got a lot more detail in here. So some of these edges are going to come out round. I think I'm going to stop there. But what we'll do is we'll just back out of edit mode by hitting Tab, and we'll check this. So I've added the texture, but it's not necessarily image texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the same image file. So navigate to that image file that you imported as a plane once again. And then we're going to go back to our modifier, and we're going to select on the coordinates UV. Let me take that back just so you watch it. So let's turn it back on. So there it's displaced now. But we got an issue. So it's displaced a lot for one. So let's change this to UV. Okay, now notice how it tightened up. Alright. Now, we got one other issue here. So right now we're extruding or displacing the image out the bottom instead of the top. Notice my axis, Z is up and Z negative is down. So how do we fix that? This is how we fix that. You just add a negative. And so therefore it is extruding out of the top of this plane in lieu of the bottom. But it's a little too high. So how do we change that? Same number. So there is our extruded QR code. And if you notice, I got a lot of edges here. So why do we have these edges? Why is it smoother? Well, that goes back to your displacement. So we can subdivide this out some more. And I just did one more time, and notice how much cleaner some of the edges got. A little bit, it's not perfect, but trust me, when this prints, it will print very nicely. The other thing you can do, so we have our displacement modifier added, and I'm going to come up here to item on this tab over here, and I'm going to look at my dimensions, because right now I'm pretty big. That's 1,000 millimeters by 1,000 millimeters. I'm going to drop that down. Let's do 70 by 70, and then I want the whole thing to be no thicker than 2 millimeters. Alright, that brings us down. Okay, so the other thing you can do, and we'll add another modifier, and we'll do remesh. We're going to choose sharp. We're going to uncheck remove disconnected, and then we're going to take up our tree till we get the image the way we want it. And as you go up, the longer it takes to process. Now, you can see these edges are a lot cleaner. So when we import this, it's going to be into the slicing program. It's going to slice real nice. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and apply these modifiers. And once you do this, it's done. You can't go back, you can't change it. So if you want to save the project here, and then the next save read, that way you've got a starting point, or you can go and edit if you need to edit. I'm happy with this, so I'm going to go ahead and apply my modifiers, or allow them to be applied. But I'm going to take this one more step further here in a moment. Okay, so we've got our QR code here. We'll cut over here and see the color image. Okay, so now I want to add something to print this on. So We can do this here, or we can do it in the slicing program. So I'm just going to pick a cube. Just going to add a cube, and then I'm going to scale it down. Either here or here, it doesn't matter. Let's do here. So I think I made that 70. Let's go 75. And let's bring down our Z to, let's do 2. Then I'm going to select my QR code. Alright, so let's turn on our snapping. And what you want to do is you want to come in here and make sure it's on an increment. And we want to do, or make sure it's on face. And we want to make sure back face culling is on. And what we're going to do is we're just going to move this up. Press G and then Z on the Z scale. And then we're going to turn on our snap. We're going to G and then Z. And it's sitting right on top of that plate now. Okay. I think I want to lower that some more. So let's do 1 millimeter. Not even that. Let's do 0.5. Okay, notice it offset because our object origin's in the center, so it's up and down, and that's it. So let's move it back to our face. It snaps right to the face. There it is. And you want to make sure that it's on the face, because that the bottom of this is on the face of this. Because when you go to print, and it's printing these layers, if this, when it's sliced, is down in here like this, then what you're going to do is you're going to be printing where you don't really need to be printing the top. It's going to show. That's not needed. And then from here, let's see what we got here. I'm going to turn on I'm just gonna add a background here if I can get it set the way I want it. Okay, so now we've got something to look at there, so it's pretty clean. With the exception of the edges. But I did not smooth. I did not shade smooth. So, see what happens if we shade it smooth. Yeah. And so now we can export this. tell you one more thing I'd like to do. So let's bevel these edges. Just want to get a quick bevel here. Round the corners off a bit. And now we're ready to export. But I'm going to first select this, then the back plate, and I'm going to parent them together. So if I move that, it moves with it. If I hadn't done that, then when I moved it, this would have stayed in place. And then we're going to select. We don't need this light. Oh, I don't need that light anymore. So I just deleted it. But now I'm going to hit A. I'm going to select all. This is the only thing that I've got in this entire project. So it will be the only thing that is selected. And then I'm going to File. And then I'm going to Export as STL. So we're opening up our QR code, STL, we made in Blender. Yes to that. Coming over to my objects. Then I'm going to split the parts. Make sure that it's selected, and if you just import it, it usually is. And we're going to change the very top. We're going to change the object completely to black. I'm going to find the main back plate and change it to the color. And the thing about the QR codes is you need contrast between the foreground and the background. So if I printed red on this blue, say the QR code was red and the background was blue, it's not going to show. Or it'll show, but when you go to scan it, some phones are going to have problems and others aren't. So the more dark light contrast that you can give this, the better. So black on white, black on blue, gold on black, that works because I actually use that for my business cards. Those are the colors that I know work. But the key is to have a dramatic amount of contrast between the foreground and the background, or whenever someone scans it, it won't work. So I suggest you test that, and in fact you can test it now as it is on the screen. But once you print one, you want to test it before you start printing a whole buku of these things. And then from here we just send it to the printer. I'll slice it one more time, give it a good slice. I probably don't need the brim, but usually on smaller, flat, very thinner things, I do use a brim. It keeps the edges from curling up. And I'm actually gonna lower this brim. First I'm gonna change this back to the nozzle I have installed. Go ahead and change my brim type. my brim to outer. I'm going to put a 3. I generally take this up with just a hair, not much. I don't see any need for a prime tower, and we should only have 2 filament changes here. And those are the other things, and that's something I'll show you. So once this is finished slicing, what happens is, if this, like I mentioned earlier, if you have this QR set down in that back plate, every time before it finishes with the blue, it's going to, so as it's printing across here, if this is set down in here, it's got to change filaments every time it goes across. So that's going to kill your print time, and it's going to be a lot of waste. So it's very important that you make sure that whatever you set your QR code on, it is flat on that surface. It is flush with that surface, not inset, unless that's what you want. If you want it inset, then inset it. But I'm going to warn you, you can get a lot of waste if you do it that way. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, and there's really nothing else. Maybe my sparse infill density is set to gyroid. I could probably, it's going to make it thin, probably bring it down to a specific point that would allow it to, we have no infill here, didn't need it. Okay, so we're ready to print, and all it is from here is just sending it to your printer, and we can do that now with this one. And that's it. If you liked it, subscribe. Come see me again. You want to see something specific? Let me know. You got a question? Leave a comment. I'll get back to you.